Everybody, apologies for the slight delay. There was a technical hitch. So I'm Martin Schroeder. I'm a professor of chemistry, and I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Engineering. Great welcome to all of you, postgraduate students and early career researchers. And I'm really very pleased to welcome three external entrepreneurs who are PhDs at the university: Ben Dolman, Chris Bullock, and Sumaya Tahari, and they will be telling you about their experiences. This event has been organized by Aileen Miller, and many thanks to Aileen. She's the Associate Dean for Business Engagement and Innovation for the faculty. And I also welcome Louise Farrand, who is the Operations Director for the Manchester Institute, Innovation Factory, sorry, too many innovations and institutes in the university. So Manchester Innovation Factory, and she will take you through the exploitation path of research and innovation. So the aim of this Researcher to Innovator program is really to help you to consider taking discovery research further into innovation and impact. So all of us do research, but what do we do with our research other than publish it? So there is a big opportunity for taking discovery through to spin out company, through intellectual property, and to work with industry and other collaborators to really innovate your discoveries into the marketplace for the betterment of mankind, and also sometimes to make some money. So we're also offering via this process up to £10,000 Innovation Awards to give you access to expert mentor support, and also to give you access to regional and national accelerator programs that again help you to take an original discovery through to the marketplace. We want to encourage early career researchers and PhDs to do this because it's firstly in our interests, but it's also in your interests to use your research, use your ideas to actually produce impact and to produce something that is tangible in the commercial environment, and to take on your business ideas via a spin out, a startup, to work with small and medium enterprises, to take your discoveries further. You'll also gain the skills for employability, because many of you will end up in industry, will end up in commercial life. And even if you end up being an academic, it is really important to be able to go into this space and really try and develop research that has real applications. So please do enjoy the session. I will stay on for as long as I can to listen to what colleagues have said, but let me extend my warm welcome to everybody. One of the other things I would say is that there's a lot of pressure on universities to show value to society. We gain and receive a lot of taxpayers' money. And so therefore, quite rightly, the taxpayer would like to see what universities are producing. And so this is another opportunity for early career researchers, particularly, potentially those that have the ideas, that have the time. And we've already done some very nice work in the graphene area, where we have taken young PhDs, young entrepreneurs to develop spin-outs and other activities. So enough from me. Thank you very much for attending. Again, apologies for the slight technical delay, but I'll hand over to Aileen, who will tell you some more. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Martin, for that excellent introduction and excellent welcome to everybody. So before we dig into the meat of the session today, which is your Q&A, your chance to ask questions to our budding entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in action, I thought I would just tell you a little bit about what innovation is, try to sort of help you understand how you can potentially generate impact and commercial opportunities from your research. And then I'll pass on to Louise Farrand from the Innovation Factory, who can tell you about why you might want to do this. And then we'll go to our panel discussion. So when we think about innovation and creating innovation, we're really talking about the transfer of knowledge, as Martin said, and that knowledge is transferred to give us better products, enhanced services or processes, and it's all to deliver some sort of tangible benefit. Now, that benefit can be economic, but it can also be societal or environmental, or perhaps even a mix of all three. So to enable us to do this, and when I say us, I mean us as a sort of university, so all-encompassing, we really need to create an innovation ecosystem, so it combines all these different parts of the jigsaw that we've got here. So we are here as researchers at the university, creating new research ideas, creating new research results, potential intellectual property value, but we also need to have accelerator programs such as the one we're going to be introducing today, expertise and mentorship that we're providing and helping to support everybody that's here with, and also sort of the innovation infrastructure and the support mechanisms through the Innovation Factory to help create that IP and get you started along that journey. So this is us trying to help create the foundation of our FSE innovation ecosystem. And we're doing this through, you may have heard something that we call the Innovation Academy, which is really helping lay the foundations to this innovation ecosystem. So the Innovation Academy, it's a joint venture between the Innovation Factory, Louise is here representing those guys today, the Masood Entrepreneurship Centre, who will offer help and training in terms of commercial skills and commercial knowledge, and also the Faculty Business Engagement and Innovation, which is where I lead and where I'm representing today. So the idea with this is really to help inspire, accelerate and create impact and generate benefit for us as individuals, but also the university and also society in general. So what are the routes to creating impact and innovation? So there's a variety of routes, some of which you'll be more familiar with than others. So there's the traditional routes that Martin highlighted at the beginning. You know, we all aspire to create high quality publications. We all want that nature, that science publication. And we want to access new knowledge, generate new knowledge and create new resources. And some of it is when we're working with industry, so we have a market understanding as well. We're also interested in developing people, so things like through industrial placements or international placements, collaborative training and access to talents and skills. But we're going to focus really today on the right-hand side, where we're thinking about open innovation and collaboration, so transferring knowledge that we've generated in the university and as individuals across potentially into businesses, but also on the innovation space. So when we have an idea that solves a problem that is currently out there in the community, can we use that knowledge to solve the problem and get it out, not just for one person, but out for the masses? Through that, we can either generate spin-outs, spin-ins, startup companies, broker license agreements, and this is where the University Innovation Factory comes into play. And then there's also thinking about more digital space, there's open source software, etc. So we're going to focus on this area today and help you deliver this side of the innovation landscape throughout the whole Researcher to Innovator programme. So what is the kind of route? And this is the very sort of schematic overview, and it's sort of generally sort of looked at in 4 steps. So the first step, you have an idea. So that's your light bulb moment, you know, a new research idea or new data or new experimental tool that you're starting to develop. And then you start to go on this journey. Now it's a wiggly line because the process is never linear, and the process is probably not as linear as my wiggly line I've shown here. But the first step is really thinking about taking your idea. Is it new? Is it really patentable? Or do you want to keep it as know-how? Then you have to take the decision, well, do I license my new knowledge or do I create a company from it? And then you start to think about, well, is it really, it might be a great fundamental idea, but is it actually something that people will use? Is it providing a solution to a problem that people are having? So that's when you go out and you start to generate your ideas and actually go out and do some market research. Then you think about creating your concept. So you do a little bit of analysis, you go out and talk to potential customers, and then you start to really develop and hone your ideas. You might have started a company, you might think about then doing some proper market research, you might want to build a team around your ideas and develop your commercial skills. And this is sort of the real sort of journey that this Researcher to Innovator program really gets you to think about and define, and helps you create as linear a path through this process as possible. You will also have to think about fundraising. So you had to think about putting a business plan together, and it's completely different to doing an academic presentation. I learned this the hard way. I went and tried to sell my science. No one was interested. I had to sell the solution to problem that people were having. So then you think about really developing and testing the solution. That's when you might think about prototyping, and you might think about going out to get some more market feedback with your prototype, and really sort of think about production. And then the last step is when you think about really going to fulfill your customer needs. You want to go out, you want to make your product, you want to think about supply chain, how do you scale up the production, how do you get real market feedback from the prototypes that you've developed. And then if you're lucky, you get to the last stage where you think about scale up, and that's a good problem to have, where you've got more demand for the product or your services than you can meet, and then you have a different problem, but a good problem. So that's kind of the journey along the way. But in reality, what you're constantly doing is this kind of squiggly line. This is where you go round and round, you go backwards, you go forwards, and then you start to really come out with a sort of clear idea and that individual sort of solution and that business plan that you want to develop and you want to go pitch to get funding. Now, you might hear from our entrepreneurs today, and I can speak from personal experience, that you go round and round this cycle for a long time. And then you might come out with your business plan, you might pivot your ideas and then go through another cycle and then come out the other end. But only by going through this and learning and talking to people do you actually really clarify your ideas. So it's a constant evolution, a little bit like your own research. You measure, you learn, you build, and you go around that cycle. So you're constantly evolving. So that's sort of on the business side. But on sort of a personal side, and thinking about your own development, I think you're currently sitting within your research and may or may not feel comfortable, you may or may not feel safe and in control, but only by going through sort of the fear and your learning zones will you actually start to learn new skills and develop, push yourself and grow as individuals and pick up different skills along the way. So with that, I'm going to pass on to Louise, who's going to tell you a little bit about how and why does commercialization benefit you and your department.
Thanks, Elaine. So I just want to add a little more to what Elaine said and explain why I think you should commercialise your research. Next slide, please. So at the Innovation Factory, we are the Technology Transfer Office of Manchester University, and we're a wholly owned subsidiary of the university. We are the only entity that deals with commercialisation of intellectual property. And intellectual property can be more than patents. It can be copyright, it can be design, and it can be know-how. And we deal with innovation and commercialisation of that right across the university, so all three faculties. Next slide. So I just want to give you some context. Over the last 2 years, we have spun out about 25 companies, I think 25 companies. So last year was a record year for commercialisation for the Innovation Factory. And you can see from some of the names and areas those spin outs are, there's quite a number there from FSE, but we would like that to grow. A number of these companies, these recent spin outs, have already got their first investments. Some are in negotiation, and some are in the last stages now of pitch decks and starting seeking investment. We also, of course, have a number of licenses that have gone out for investment from companies as well. Next slide. So for me, why do it? You're all busy people. The biggest reason actually is to make a difference, to people's lives, to make a commercial impact perhaps, to make a difference to the environment, and to make a real difference to society. Next slide. And I'd like to give an example. This is Professor Lydia Tabanera. She has been working on a new class of drugs to treat multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, which is a real nasty disease. If you get this, you're likely to be hospitalized for months, and the cocktail of drugs is really toxic and probably does damage. So this type of tuberculosis is prevalent in big cities globally, and in countries, I think Russia and India in particular. So Lydia's spun out this company, and that will focus on this area. That can then attract funding in to really develop and make a difference to patients' lives, but it leaves her free to work with new molecules in other areas. So it opens up another communication channel to Lydia for investment. Next slide, thanks. So by commercialisation, you can also bring in more industrial research income to your group. And as well as Lydia, I'd like to give another example on the next slide, which is that of ICE9. So this is a spin out from the Robots in Extreme Environments group. And they've developed this robot that goes and photographs and films in potentially very dangerous situations. So kind of places like nuclear decommissioning facilities, underwater tanks, where the only other alternative really is to send down a person in a confined space. This robot is in all sorts of nuclear facilities globally. And of course, if people want just another robot, they'll go back to the company. But if they want something developed, if they want more research, if they want collaboration, the obvious people they're going to go to is this research group at Manchester. And we can show that that's been impactful and brought in much more research income through this company as well into that group. Next slide. Build your career. Next slide. This is a really good reason. Aileen and Martin have already mentioned this. This is Seb Leeper. During his PhD, he developed a new membrane that removes rubbish from water to get clean water. He's developed this into a company, and I know at the moment he's looking at removing lithium for battery purposes from kind of wastewater. And the investors are circling at the moment. So, you know, what a fantastic way to start your career straight after your PhD. This is going to add value to everybody's CV. And of course, the IP is owned by the employer. So if you're an employee of the university, but of course you will get rewarded if you commercialise. And get rich, of course, can be a reason, but perhaps shouldn't be the main reason to do this. Next slide. Have fun. Next slide. And I have an example here. This is the founder of Atomic Mechanics. He's developed during his PhD a capacitance pressure sensor, and he's trying out here on his skateboard. So my message is there are lots of reasons to do this. But the main ones are have fun, bring more research income into your group, and really make impact on society. That's my message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louise. I think that was a great list of reasons why you might want to consider generating a sort of commercial impact and exploring that space with your own research. So I'm really pleased today that you've heard maybe on paper what it is and what it means, but there's nothing like hearing in practice how people have done it, why they have done it, and what it's currently bringing them on the journeys that they've been on and are continuing to carry on doing. So we've got three amazing ex-Manchester graduates, Ben, Chris and Samaya, here today. Please, this is your time. Please put your questions into the chat function. We will get through as many questions as we can today, but take advantage of the fact that you've got an opportunity to ask away, and there's no such thing as a silly question. It's always just looking to explore and learn. So I'm going to let our panelists introduce themselves. They're going to tell you a little bit about who they are, their background, and the commercial journeys that they've been on. Ben, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Aileen. Yeah, and good to speak to you all. Yeah, so I'm Ben Dolman. So I came from PhD in the University of Manchester. I was in chemical engineering. And we developed in my PhD project a technology to allow us to produce particular biochemicals more cheaply, and realized that was kind of different to what other people were doing. Started contacting some companies in the field, and I think that's something that's very useful to do kind of early stage. Go out and talk to people as much as you can to kind of find out if what you're doing is something people are interested in. And did a couple of scale-up trials with a few different companies, spun out in 2018, and since then have been the CEO. We've built a pilot plant in Daresbury, and just raised about 10 million pounds to build a kind of full-scale commercial plant. So that's what we're going to be doing that over the next year or so. So some exciting times, yeah. And good to speak to you all. I'm happy to take your questions.
Brilliant. That's amazing. 10 million raised in 3 years to build an actual pilot plant. That's fantastic. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself and QV Bio?
Sure. Hello, everyone. So I'm Chris, the CEO of QV Bioelectronics, and we're a medical device company. We're developing an implanted device to treat brain tumors. So, we can talk about the technology later, perhaps, but it's a very kind of worthy problem for us to be working on. Really one of the worst diseases out there. I work fairly regularly with patient groups and so on, and frankly, I know that some of the patients that we talk to, who are often, about my age, they're not necessarily older people, probably won't be around for another 18 months. My personal background, I did a PhD in the kind of biomaterials crowd at Manchester, with a particular focus on graphene, with like a lot of people here, and I was working on neurotechnology, so developing next generation brain-computer interfacing, neural stimulating electrodes, and so on. The company is clinically co-founded, so it really came out of some discussions with a clinical colleague back at the university, and we started up about 3 years ago now as well. But we've only had about 1.2 million pounds in funding, so we're well behind Ben, but we're now up to six full-time employees as well, and kind of moving forwards in the right direction.
That's great. Thank you, Chris. And yeah, every company has different cash needs to go to different stages of their journey. So Samaya, you want to introduce yourself in Urban Chain?
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you. Speaking to all. My name is Samaya, and I'm the CEO at Urban Chain. Urban Chain is about, in a simple terms, is about making energy bills carbon neutral, and that carbon neutrality come cheap. So we also make energy bills half. And that process is coming through the adding automation and advanced technologies to the supply chain of energy market. I personally graduated 2015-16, and my focus was on data science in urban planning. And then I joined as a post. I had some postdoc positions again, working on the climate change projects and all relevant to energy industry. Then, based on that, I joined ex-UMIC, which is now MEC, to process through their innovation optimizer. And then we got the first 10K from the UMIC at the time. Now we have employed 14 people. We have, we are one of the, proudly one of the success stories of Innovate UK. Also, we have raised, but we didn't focus on raising too much because we thought innovation needs to stay with ourselves as much as possible. I'm not saying those who raise too much, they don't have control on that. I'm just saying we needed that structure to stay. So we focused on the securing contracts and commercialization. And we already have 1.2 in energy term, 1.2 terawatt-hour secured contract, which is around quite 12 million pounds contract to be delivered. Thank you for the opportunity and happy to answer your question.
That's fabulous. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. So hopefully you can get a flavour of the different types of companies that Ben, Chris and Samaya have built up and are continuing to push and grow. So feel free to ask any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll get to them. There's one come through now. So thinking about some of the starting up in terms of when did you get your light bulb moment and what were the key things that helped you progress from that sort of initial idea through to actually starting the company? Ben, do you want to kick us off with that one?
Yeah, sure. So from my perspective, there certainly wasn't a light bulb moment. There was never really a point where I went from not starting a company to starting a company. It was a series of steps. Let's see what's going to happen here. Let's try things. And then at some point you realize you're starting a company. But I think really the key thing is to do something. And actually that you can sometimes do something stupid, but doing something stupid is actually a pretty good way of starting a company. It's not about, it's more about what you do than doing nothing, I think is the key point I would emphasize above everything else.
Fantastic. So keep doing is the moral of that one. Samaya?
Very good question. I just basically second what Ben said in terms of keep doing things. In terms of light bulb moment, I didn't have the business background. So for me, light bulb moment maybe when it was that that my solution has commercial opportunity. So when I had this thing about what to do with the energy sector, how to solve the issue in the energy sector, I met my commercial officer, and then I started communicating what I'm doing. He didn't understand because I was too technical. So then he started saying, "Right, tell me what you're doing in my field." And I started thinking about his field and what he's doing. At the time, he was in food business. And when I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, this is going to happen. These things are going to be automated and so on and so forth. And then in that point, he started talking in commercial sense. And then I was getting, okay, this is the solution that people need. So make it tend to become my mission or aim in life, to come and make it happen. And to be honest, just keep doing. This fear of not doing things is a big barrier. And I think keep going, and overcome that fear. Do it, and you'll get there. Definitely get there.
Excellent. Good advice there. Chris, do you have anything to add to that question?
What was my light bulb moment was the question, wasn't it? Well, our company was, as I said, founded basically on a clinical problem, and having a problem to solve is often a good way of starting a business. As I mentioned, Richard, the co-founder of the company, is an NHS neurosurgeon, and we were working together in the research environment on some new technologies. And he kind of said to me one day, "Have you ever thought about this? And would it be technically possible to achieve this?" And it just started a period of probably about 6 months of us just having a cup of coffee every now and then to chat through ideas. And I think with the introduction that Martin, Aileen and Louise gave everyone, there was this real sense of kind of real world impact. And I think that's one of the things that attracted me to it. It's not impossible to change the world from an academic environment. There are plenty of people who've done that, but if you want to solve problems in the real world, most of the time there's a company, a commercial vehicle that is delivering that product, that service, and actually getting it out there. So when we were talking about this idea, how do we treat brain tumors? It was also around the time that I was coming to the end of my PhD, and we looked at, could we turn this into an academic project? And for one reason or another, it was going to be difficult to do that. But also, I was very keen that, if we were going to set out on this path, it was to develop a device that we were going to deliver to patients in as quick a time as possible, and not turn it into a purely academic project. So one of the motivations for starting the company was around getting that real world impact, getting it to patients as quickly as we could, which, as it turns out, is going to take quite a long time anyway because it's complicated. But that was the motivation behind it, I think.
But that's great, and I think it may take some time, but the potential impact of the end result it will be huge for you guys. We've got some questions coming through the chat, which is great. So Rowan was asking, what resources did you find useful for getting to grips with the business side of things? Ben, do you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah. So there's a lot of books available. I think you can, if you have a quick Google around, you can find some of those things like the Lean Startup, the Founder's Dilemmas, are very useful kind of general ways to understand some of the business concepts. But I think more than anything, it's talking to people. So I think it's always surprising how open people are to talking. So, I mean, for instance, if any of you want to contact me afterwards, feel free to drop me a message and I'm happy to chat things through. But I found kind of going through the startup journey, there's been people all the way up to kind of high-level executives in some of the big corporates are very happy to talk you through some of the challenges you have, and are happy to kind of give you mentoring, even kind of like on a monthly basis, or even more frequently than that. So would 100% encourage you to do that. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And thinking about, resources, I know, Chris, that you've been through sort of an innovation program, not dissimilar to the Researcher to Innovator program that we're launching here with the graphene, and you won one of the prizes, the Ellie and Britt Harari prizes, to get you kickstarted with the business. Do you want to comment on perhaps the usefulness of that kind of program?
It's definitely useful to learn some of the basic concepts, but I would say that there's actually a lot of parallels between running a startup company and doing scientific research. It is an experiment, and I would say that it's an experimental exercise rather than a theoretical one, if that makes sense. So I think it can be for people who are, in an academic environment with no business experience, it can be intimidating to kind of see all of the jargon and think, oh, I don't understand that. I'm not sure I'm capable of doing it. But a lot of it is frankly common sense. And in your day jobs as academic researchers, you will be dealing with problems that are far more complicated than coming up with a business plan. I just second everything that Ben said. Talk to people, and that's essentially the first experimental process that you go through, because you have a hypothesis. Well, what about doing this in my business? And your test is to go and talk to somebody who knows something about it and see what they say, and you kind of iterate. And you had at the start, Aileen, that very non-linear kind of process, which is exactly right. There's a lot of learning to do. You asked me specifically on the courses. I think they're very useful framework to start to test out ideas and to plan what a business could look like. And a lot of it is about not being too fixated on a particular piece of technology, but actually focusing on where's the demand. What do people want to pay you money for, and who are those customers, and so on. And that's the way you come up with a valid business. And the second part is, I know that there is pots of funding available from the university through different schemes and competitions, and we were the beneficiaries of one of those, and it is hugely valuable to have that opportunity, a bit of money to go out and spend and test out some of the ideas before it gets serious.
Yeah, I think on a personal level, I would completely agree with you. I think we started a company based on our research that we developed over many years in the university. And we started off trying to pitch scientific ideas. We managed to persuade someone to give us a little bit of seed funding. And then I went through an accelerator course, not dissimilar to this one. And I completely pivoted the way that I was thinking and the way that I pitched my business ideas. And through that program, then we managed to raise a significant amount of funding for our company. But also I managed to get a mentor and also a business coach, two different things. And they were invaluable in helping me, and they still do help me actually, even though the business has been around it's coming up in 9 years. I think you're never too old to learn, and I think never stop learning and developing and evolving as we go through. So we've got a couple of really good questions coming through, a few questions on funding. So Kwasi is asking, any tips on convincing others to fund your idea? And also asking about how do you raise the funding for your companies? Any tips, and I guess any tips on gaining funding and who to go to? I know, Samaya, you've got some Innovate funding. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
That's right. So Innovate is, well, I'm sure you know Innovate. Innovate is about the high risk innovation. So if you are a high risk innovation, definitely Innovate is a go for you. It's just the point of match funding that money is something that I'm sure MEC can help you, Manchester Enterprise Centre. The thing is, you should have funding or financing is something that is running along your business plan. So you have one document which is showing how you are managing your finance, and that includes funding. In terms of who to target, I would suggest to target those who understand your research. So don't, for example, go for, I would say, for example, somebody who has invested in energy sector for a long time and then get money for health sector. If they have a plan to invest in health sector, yes, target them. But if you don't, you're just going around and they don't respond to you, and then you get, okay, so why don't they respond to me? So I would say creating a list of kind of, they are out there, to be honest. Their list is out there that you can target, and then you can send your pitch to them, and then they come back with feedbacks. You can listen to those feedbacks. Some feedbacks might be they didn't understand your proposition. So don't take them personal. Take them as an advice, and then work on them. Even if you are against them by saying, okay, I don't want to do that, it's okay. Means that funding partner is not a proper funding partner for you. So move on to the next one, and just carry on. And it's a sort of try and error to get to the point that you find the group that is believing in what you're doing, and then start funding you. And from there, basically, you build up your portfolio, and then when you build up your portfolio, then you have different funding options, which is it can be like saying, okay, I focus on commercialization. No, I focus on raising more. No, I go for bank loans. Other options coming up to you. So I would say Manchester Enterprise Centre is also a great place to seek help.
Brilliant, thank you. A couple of other specific questions. One's from Joshua, and I'll ask Chris this. Oops, it just moved. What did the initial funding prize that you won awarded from the graphene prizes? What did you use it for in your company?
Good question. Probably wasted a lot of it in going through this process of experimenting things. We bought a piece of equipment, a potentiostat that was very important for the kind of early stage experiments of the technology, demonstrating the proof of concept of the technology. So that was, I think we probably spent about £20,000 of that. So on that, so that's a good chunk of our prize. Rent, renting a small laboratory space to be able to do that. Cost of travel to go out and attend events and network. I mean, we had an earlier question about how do you raise money? Well, a good start is making sure that people know who you are and that you know all of the right people in your sector, because that's where you come across opportunities. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't give you one specific thing of, this is where we spent most of the money. It went on quite a few different things, and startups and startup founders need to wear a lot of hats and do a lot of things simultaneously. It's one of the challenges of it. I think the way to think about, if you've got some funding and you're trying to think about what to do with it, is you've got to kind of map out, and the plan will change, but you map out a plan of where you are and where you'd like to get to. And I'd probably start with something like, where do we want to be in 5 years' time? But then bring it back to think about, okay, what are the big steps that we need to achieve to actually make it to that end goal? And your plan will become very detailed for the next kind of 6 months, 12 months, something like that. And that's what you're working towards. So when you have a pot of funding, what you really want to use it for is to address some of the big risks that if somebody was assessing your business from the outside, which is exactly what funders, whether they're venture capital investors or grant funders do, they just look at, is this actually idea going to work? So you think about where the big risks, big problems are, and think, right, well, I've got £10,000 or however much it is. What can I do that will actually provide some evidence to tick off a few of those biggest risks? And that's the way to think about it. It's an exercise in risk mitigation, really.
I think that's a great answer, and I think as you journey through the Researcher to Innovator program, we help you direct where you would spend your potential award funding on, and that's all part of the learning process and journey and criteria then for assessment at the end. time for just a couple of last very quick questions. Gergana is asking, how did you find a mentor coach to support you along the way? I'll quickly answer that. And I would say throughout most accelerator or research to innovator programs, you will get allocated mentors and coaches to help you through your journey and help mentor you through the process. If you want to take someone externally, just go out, network, talk to as many people as you can. I think Ben said it earlier, and just ask. People generally are very willing to give up some time to help people on their journeys. LinkedIn is an amazing way to go and search and scope out potential mentors and networking as well. Last question, I'm going to put this one to Ben, because I know you've got some contracts, I think, with or expressions of interest with some companies for your product. Do you have any advice for making sure that promising initial interest from companies and customers translates into a sustained business?
Yes, I think the may be an obvious point, but make sure you keep following up. Keep trying to understand what they want rather than what you offer. So sometimes it can be not even a case of changing your actual product, but framing what your product does in a slightly different way can help them. I think find the people in the company who are the kind of internal spokespeople who are really keen on your product. So don't think that if you have one contact, that's enough for you to kind of get a product approved in a company. You often need to go to different people in different departments. So just R&D usually can't take things very far. You want to try to get into their purchasing teams, their business development teams as early as you can. And I would say a lot of them don't end up coming off. So that's one thing to be aware. Don't think I've got one promising lead, I'll stick with that. What you ideally want to do is have 100 promising leads that maybe 10 will follow through, and maybe 2 or 3 will actually go to buy some significant quantities of your product. So it really is, I think, for a lot of these things, a numbers game. You need to be talking to as many people as you can, both different companies and different people within the same company.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And I'm going to just finish with one question, which I'm going to ask Louise, actually. So there's a question about the university helping with legal aspects in terms of forming the startup spin-off, well, spin-out or spin-in it would be, for example, with medical regulations and patient consent, etc. Do you want to comment on that, and then how Innovation Factory would integrate within the Researcher to Innovator programme?
Yeah, so if we were to help you set up a company, we would also be looking to help you with funding what you need. So that could be helping you apply for grants. It could be proof of principle funding, or it could be looking for investors early on. You would need a plan. The short answer is yes, we could help you, but obviously that's going to cost some money. We could certainly put you in touch at an initial level with the right people, but you would use your, the small bits of money perhaps you have at the beginning of that through grants and things to start along that road. I'd just like to add that we have recently formed Northern Gritstone Company out of Universities of Leeds, Sheffield and Manchester. That's gone out to raise up to £500 million. They're going to look at all of our spin outs, and they're looking to invest a minimum of £200,000, but typically up to £1 million into each of our companies. So that helps us help you. It stops us scrapping around for bits of money, which is what we typically do. It's a real difficult period for spin outs, and once you've got an investment in, other investors then feel de-risked and they'll come in. So we also would see that. So you're not on your own. We will certainly try and find you the right people, I think is the answer.
That's brilliant, and that's great to hear. And I think that's the message to take away. So you're not on your own, and we're here to support and help you through that journey from sort of initial ideas, initial discussions over coffee, through to actually creating that company with Companies House, registering it, and then going on your journey to start to secure some funding moving forward. So thanks very much.
With that particular question, there was a comment on medical regulations and so on, I'm happy to be contacted to talk about that. The legal aspects of starting companies and IP and so on, that Louise is probably better fit for that. But specifically with the medical regulations, that's something I'm happy to be contacted about.
That's brilliant, and I'm sure everyone else will be as well. So happy to continue answering the questions. So we're going to talk about sort of next steps. So this was sort of the initial whetting your appetite into thinking about commercial opportunities. And I'm going to hand over to a recording from Simon Brown, who will actually be running the Researcher to Innovator program, so you can hear a little bit more about what you might get involved in. So over to you, Simon.
Hello, my name is Simon Brown, and I'm going to be involved in the training on this FSE Innovation Academy Researcher to Innovation program. Sadly, I can't be with you today. I've got a diary clash, so hence for the video. Well, after today's introduction, I'm going to be running 3 sessions to provide you with some tools to help you shape a presentation or a proposal for the faculty to consider. So I'm going to be running 3 sessions, the first on the 19th, Tuesday the 19th of October. That will be in the morning from 10 till 1. So those of you who've got time in the morning, hopefully you can come to that one. If you can't make that, I'll be running a session on Wednesday the 20th in the afternoon from 2 till 5. If your days are fully crammed, then I'm going to be running a session on the 21st, the Thursday, in the evening from 6 till 9. So hopefully everybody will get a chance to come along and engage in some of this introductory training, where I'll share some tools and techniques to allow you to consider what some of the opportunities might be for the research that you're engaged with. You've got till the 1st of November to create what's called a lean canvas, which you'll submit by email to the faculty. They'll consider it. And those of you who the faculty think are at the right stage to progress on to the next level of training, you'll be told around about the 8th of November whether you're progressing. Those 20 or so individuals who've been invited to move on to the next level of training, I'll be joined with colleagues from across the UK and the Masood Entrepreneurship Centre, and we're going to be running 2 days of training, full days of training, on the 16th and 17th of November. In those 2 days, we'll give you more tools, more help, more insights into how you could shape your research or find out what the opportunities might be for your research, and then invite you to conduct about 30 conversations with colleagues outside of your immediate circle of contacts. We're going to be running a half day of further support on the 1st of December, Wednesday afternoon, where we'll allow you to come back and share what you've learned thus far. We might then give you some encouragement to look in slightly different areas, or just tell you you're doing a great job, keep going, maybe give you a bit more pointers. You've then got through up till Christmas and just after Christmas to carry on refining the feedback you're getting. And then on the 12th of January, depending on the numbers who are progressing, we'll try and run some sort of surgeries where you'll have one-to-one support with an expert, either from outside of the university or from the Masood's Entrepreneurship Centre, and give you a chance to really go into what you've gathered from the conversations that you've been having, and how that directs you to some next best steps. And you'll be invited to think about what your next best steps should be. Well, the end of this program will be what we're calling an options roundabout, where you'll present, it's not a pitch because you haven't got anything to sell, it's a proposal of what you think your next best steps should be to a panel of people from the faculty and the Masood Entrepreneurship Centre, maybe from outside, because there are a number of different opportunities depending on where you are in your particular journey. So to prepare you for this 10-minute proposal, we will be giving you some training, and there's an expert who will come in and give you some training, and we'll maybe give you an opportunity to have a practice dry run before the options roundabout. And you'll be given a slot sometime in the week commencing the 21st of February for the options roundabout. So we've got to try and find time between the 12th of January and the 21st of February to do the training for presentation and maybe a practice before that. So hopefully you've got an idea of the scale of what we're doing. Hopefully I'll see a large number of you on one of the 3 sessions, either the morning of the 19th, the afternoon of the 20th, or the evening of the 21st, where we'll get you started on this journey. So thanks for listening, and look forward to seeing you in a few days' time. Bye.
So thank you very much, Simon, for that. I hope you have learned a little bit more about what the Researcher to Innovator programme will involve. And we will send you through the recording of this session, along with the link to start to register for your sessions next week. And feel free to get in touch if you've got any questions about the programme or about innovation in general. I can pop you in touch with Ben, Chris, or Samaya, or Louise from the Innovation Factory. And the key thing really is a couple of key messages. One is, if you've got an idea, or if you think you've got any intellectual property at all, then first step is to get in touch with the Innovation Factory, who can help you on that journey. Second take-home message is just go do it. I think there's no such thing as silly mistakes, only learning opportunities. And I think doing something is better than nothing. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the session and got something useful out of it. And I look forward to seeing you on the Researcher to Innovation programme in the due course. Thanks very much. Bye.